Great.
They're all great, aren't they?
You know, I'm alive. I got the issues other people would love to have, so I just shut up in color.
There you go.
It's,
First world problems.
yeah, better than first world problems in America. So, what's my complaint?
Very, very good. All right. So what is going on in your region or in your office with the social ambassadors?
It's interesting. We're going through it, and a lot of dialogue. And one of the things is like, which path is the best path? And I was talking to someone because I'm on the national subcommittee for wealth building. And but from my understanding, we showed some folks the wealth building part of it, and it kind of and it just went negative south. It was kind of different, and so trying to pull people back into that space to say, hey, there are so many different facets of how to approach this. So there are five different which you very well know, there's five different subcommittee task force.
Do you know what they? I've heard that, but I don't know what they all are.
Let me tell you what they all are. How about I tell you what they all are?
That'd be great.
Okay. Uh, Give me 1 second. I'm pulling it up now. Um, I will tell you in 1 second. But yeah, and so it's so many different. When you started addressing issues like this, you do know that everybody has an opinion, and there's like 1,000 opinions about how to do this, how to do that.
Well, and I would think, I mean, I don't know the task forces yet, but or the subcommittees. But how in the world can wealth building be controversial or go south?
Well, because everybody's got an opinion. You know what I mean? So how do you how do you how do you how do you deal with everybody's opinion? It is kind of hard because you're working through things and you're figuring out how to uh, make something really special. And at the end of the day, it's rough. So it's community give back initiatives, minorities and leadership positions, diversity training and education, wealth builders, inclusive marketing and advertising.
Okay.
You got it?
I do. The
Let me-
second one I just put leaders of color, but what was the actual name of it?
Minorities and leadership.
Minorities and leadership. Got it. Cool. Thank you for that.
And so, it's so many different facets to that whole conversation. And sometimes people just take a bite off of one of them, and then they lose focus on what all five of them really mean.
Yeah. Well, and it is always hard. I mean, that's the challenge of our leadership, right? Differing opinions doesn't make anybody right or wrong. How do we incorporate all of them?
Yeah, and so yeah, the way that you incorporate things is you have to compartmentalize it, and it's just like any other, just like whatever social issues, whatever social challenges you're talking about, you have to compartmentalize it and deal with it on the surface of where it is, and you can't throw everything under one big umbrella.
Yep. Because it's all different.
And it is, and that's, and even if you're dealing with this issue in and of itself of just the way the world is going, and you say, well, you say minorities. I'm I do my best not to say minorities because being you're just being frank. Nobody has the same issues as black folks,
Right.
right? And then nobody has the issues of LGBTQ question mark. Is that what it is? Is that the
Questioning, yeah.
question?
Queer
Yeah.
or questioning.
Okay.
We add letters to it every year.
Okay. Nobody definitely has the same issues as white women.
They're all different. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah,
Yeah.
and the
So
more we can talk about it, right? What
right.
we're doing is, I'm learning every day. One of my agents was on Friday,
Right.
and he's Middle Eastern, and I do that because there's so many countries, and we rarely, as Americans, identify the differences, and we got a huge education.
Mm, I can imagine because, if you really think about it, you got Iran, Iraq, and Pakistan all there together, and they're really different people. We just throw them all in the same bucket.
Well, and even more countries than that, for sure.
Right. I just chose those. Those are the ones that stick out.
Yeah.
But it's still it's a couple more wedged in there. And so how do you even have that conversation the best way?
Yeah. Ask questions, shut up, and listen.
But
That's my philosophy right now.
therein lies the issue. Shut up. Shut up.
I can't add to the conversation. I'm just going to sit back and listen.
So and that's where the challenge comes in because we can't shut up. We have two ears and one mouth. Use them proportionately.
That could be another T-shirt.
So I'm gonna have a T-shirt for every day of the week.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah, and the challenge is the people who talk the most are the people who have the most benefits and privileges. But again, you're threatening that position.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're
And are
threatening
you
that.
feeling that? I'm feeling that on different levels where because this is common conversation,
Right.
not just in Keller Williams, I mean, across the country, every company and university is probably having some kind of racial discussion.
Right.
Are you feeling, I'm sensing, I don't have evidence for it, but I'm sensing the regular white patriarchy kind of grabbing even harder.
Well, I don't know because that's typically not my demographic.
You're not hanging out there?
Yeah, I'm not hanging out there. But and it would be different when I came into the place anyway. However, it's work in different ways because I was out to dinner a couple weeks ago, and I had this different kind of warm embrace from the people, and it was like, oh, there's a black guy. Let me really speak to him. It was funny, man. Fun. It was good. It was something I wasn't used to. But
I think
inside,
that's a sign of awareness, though, right? I shared
yeah,
with you a couple weeks ago when I'm out on my walks or if I go to Home Depot, I am just finding myself going to the black cashier versus the white cashier. And it's just, I think just a hyper awareness.
it is, and it's. I'm not saying it's anything wrong. I just smile to say, finally, finally, I'm not as invisible as I used to be.
That pendulum swung totally the other way now.
Yeah, yeah, because a lot of times in those places, we are like invisible. It's like it's people like it's almost like people see through us. It's weird. It's the weirdest thing. It's the weirdest thing. But it is what it is. You just have to embrace everything. As long as you're comfortable in your skin, that's what really matters. However, you can say that all day long. However, it feels so much better when you don't have to fight through that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I'm curious. I was thinking about you this weekend, and obviously where you are, and tell us the name of your town again.
I'm in Upper Marlboro.
So in Upper Marlboro, it's obviously you've shared. It's not very diverse. It's very black. How far are you from?
Not really. It's not. It's not really very black. Well, it's 65% of the population is black, and probably it's just it's like little below 10 other, and the rest is white. However, the interaction that we have in that community, you typically don't have that interaction with non-blacks. Let me just put it that way.
Why is that?
Because Well, part of it is that in Upper Marlboro is a historically, well, anyways, I live in the South County, and the South County is historically a white part of the county. In fact, Prince George's County had the most amount, that jurisdiction had the most amount of slaves in Maryland. It borders Virginia, so it is people. Some people call it north, but it's really closer south than north. It's more of a southern feel than a northern feel. And the people who live in Upper Marlboro, a lot of times this is generational residents that live in South County, and they just don't interact the same way.
Okay. So what I was thinking about, because I don't know the geography out there,
Okay.
but I know Maryland, has some very white places too.
Oh
So
yeah.
what is the political representation of the Black community within the state?
What do
Do
you
you
mean
feel like
political?
that's fairly well balanced?
Political as in political representation?
Yeah. So city council member, I don't know.
Oh yeah, you probably don't get much more you probably don't find I don't think there's any place in the country that has as many black representatives. You'll be hard pressed to find a place that has as many black representatives because there's a large black population in the center of the state. Now, when you go to the outer edges, you go up towards the mountains. Black people don't go to the mountains too much
Why is that? I don't think they go to the mountains in any state.
because it's animals, wild animals. We are wild animal adverse. Didn't you see Jason? How many times did Jason kill black people? Because they ain't going to the woods.
That's right. You're right. Absolutely. Never thought about that.
So and that's just not what we do. And but the real reason is because when blacks came from the South, and blacks have typically gone to places where there were factories, there was a lot more industrial, there was a low skill labor market requirement, and so blacks typically migrated to those types of places. And then what began to happen was that in like the late 50s, early 60s, a lot of those businesses and a lot of those industrial places they really had plants and things in the inner city because that's where they could get their greater pool of people. As the blacks started to take more of the jobs, then they moved the plants out to the suburbs because they knew blacks had limited transportation. Is
They
that
couldn't get to
crazy?
the jobs, so then the jobs are safe for the white people.
Exactly. And so that's the reason why we're not in the mountains because there's
Industry
no
for you.
industrial, there's no industry in the mountains.
You were saying that, I don't know why this popped into my head, but way before this year, I was probably 2 or 3 years ago. I'll look it up. A movie came out, and I think it was because you were saying, Jason with Friday the 13th didn't kill any
Right.
black people because there were no black people out there.
Right.
2017, a movie called Get Out came
Yeah.
out. Did
Yeah.
you?
I saw it.
I want to go back and watch it. That was one. It was, I thought, a really good, scary movie, but disturbing on societal levels. So everybody who's on here, if you don't mind a scary movie here and there, go check that out.
It was weird, but the sad part about it is there is some truth to what they were doing.
Oh no, for sure. That's why it was disturbing.
There is some truth to what they were doing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know it or not, but organ harvesting is a big deal.
Yeah.
And some people say it's conspiracy. Some people say it's not. You'll never get the real answer. But it has been proven that it has been a thing where they have harvested young black male organs because of some of the properties that they house because of melanin and the resistive nature of melanin and that part of being black. It's a resistive nature, and they found that a lot of times the organs thrive a little more. It's weird. It's crazy. And if a black male goes missing, nobody really looks for them.
Uh-huh. It's so interesting. So Brian says, why is it that a lot of Black folks don't swim or learn how to swim?
Because it's animals in the water.
Is this one man's opinion, or is this?
No, I'm telling you, that's more. I get my friend. I got friends that won't even go on a cruise. They say that's more water than I can drink. If something happens, and so we are a risk adverse community. So if it's risky, most of the time you can just count us out. Like really? I tell you what, I was in Japan, I was in Okinawa, and I was scuba diving. And I did that for like 2 years. And I kid you not, in my whole time scuba diving, I may have saw one other Black diver. It was so interesting scuba diving, even the fish looked at me funny.
No joke though. I saw on the news last night you had, and it's not that close. You're just a lot closer than I am.
Right.
Your first, great white shark attack that killed yesterday in Maine.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Maine. Yeah, oh, that's why That's why Black folks go to the beach. It's sharks in the water. What's the probability of you getting attacked by a shark? It's like 900 million to 1. But then they would tell you, some of my friends would tell you, I don't want to be that one.
Same thing with bears in the woods, right?
Right. Exactly. And so, and on the East Coast, it's something about like Maine, New Jersey, New York, Maine, all like when you get upper East Coast and great whites, they migrate up and down the coast like that. And it's a lot. It happens. They have a lot of sightings up and down the upper northeast United States. A lot.
Interesting.
A lot. And I don't know if it has something to do with the jet stream or whatever, but they have tracked the migratory habits of great whites, and their migratory habits is all up and down the East Coast for some reason. And particularly like in the summertime, it gets worse.
Yeah. Amazing you haven't had more attacks then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not a lot of people go to the beach, and it's not the same beach population in New Jersey, New York. That's not the same beach population.
Right.
As down south, which they have less sightings down south than they do up north, I think. This is weird.
I like this line of questioning though that Brian brought up, because stereotypes can be so devastating to people if they really take them on.
Yes.
And maybe debunking some or trying to figure out where they came from. And I'm sure 20 years ago I would have thought of a lot more. Right now, all I can think, I'm watermelon and chicken, fried chicken. Where in the world do those two things come from?
Because they're Southern foods.
Okay.
They're both Southern foods.
Simple as that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Southern foods. The other reason why Black people don't like to swim is, and I've heard people say this, and I'm not sure. Buoyancy is something to do with muscle density, where the muscle density, and I've heard this before, where muscle density, a lot of times you'll find particularly Black men and women, both the muscle density and the body structure is not typically conducive to swimming, because it's fighting. And I realized that it might have been just me, and I was scared as hell being underwater. But everybody else always had more air than me. Yeah, exactly. And it was rough, and it's fighting. So swimming takes up a lot of energy.
Oh yeah.
It takes a lot of energy, and that muscle mass is not good swimming is not good for people who have a large muscle mass.
Yeah.
So
you didn't need as much weight probably as the other guys.
Right.
All right. What other, somebody type in there, because I'm seriously blanking on any stereotypes. I will say, just because I finished reading Becoming, Michelle Obama talked about people wanting to touch her skin or her hair all the time.
Right. Oh yeah. Let me tell you the crazy part. When I was in Japan, my wife and when we were in Japan, and my wife worked at a Japanese preschool. So she taught English at a Japanese preschool. And this is the craziest thing. Like they would always want to touch your hair, touch her hair. But then they wanted to taste their skin to see if it was like chocolate.
Wow.
I mean, when you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
When you don't know, you don't know. So that was the craziest thing, because she was with them all the time. So they obviously had a really like real clear and open relationship about, just what thoughts were.
Right. Crazy.
So,
all right.
like,
I don't know the answer to this one. But I saw a great meme the other day. I can't share or choose not to.
right.
But where do you think the term cracker came from?
I heard that before. I heard it before. Um, I can't remember where I heard it, what I heard it was, but I can't remember. I heard it, I just can't remember.
What are some of the other terms that the Black community may use on us? Because we certainly have enough that we use for all the other ethnicities.
Um, Honky. I don't know where that comes from either. I just don't.
Whitey, does that still happen?
Not whitey. Oh, see, and so sometimes the nicer words I've heard are the clear people.
Clear people.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard that one.
The clear people, the pilgrims. The gray people.
Gray?
Mm-hmm. I've heard clear
Give us a
people,
color.
gray people, whitey, and the whole thing is that just without being derogatory or not saying white people, and to keep it as neutral as possible, without trying not to be just flat out say white people, because then that always gets people's attention. Because if somebody says, yeah, man, it was a lot of clear people at this event. Really? And nobody would ever know what you were talking about.
Oh, so it's coded language.
Yeah, it's coded language.
Okay. It's very interesting because a lot of the reading I've done, certain terms are so loaded and just get a visceral reaction immediately. And the whole concept of white supremacy versus the, let's call it, movement of white supremacy. They're two different things, but as soon as you use the word supremacy, I think people's brains shut down, right? It's just such a divisive term. You can't accept that we live in a white supremacist society.
Well, and the fact is, the people who have the biggest issue with it, again, are the major benefactors.
Right.
So I don't get it.
You got low energy today, mister.
No. I was reading something. I was trying to figure out. I was reading that thing. I was trying to figure out where the word cracker came from.
The meme I saw said, "This snowflake is a cracker," and I just cracked up. I'd love to be able to send that to some people. All right, other questions from the audience. Don't just sit here passively today. Throw. Come on, Brian.
Throw something at us.
All right, this is gonna sound bad, but thank you for doing this every week. You've totally opened my mind big time to things, especially this systemic part.
Okay.
But among the Black community, I'm a gay guy, and gay guys will be like, "Hey, fag, what's up?" Blah blah blah. Sometimes I'll hear in the Black community that people do the same thing. What's your take on that? Like, you guys can say blah, we could say derogatory. If somebody else I heard say that F word, I would be like, wait, do you want my fist or do you want a conversation? Versus within the community itself, people would joke about it. Sort of like I hear my Black friends will call each other like an N word or whatever.
Right. Well, you know, it's kind of interesting. I don't like the word either way, but you know, it's like, and this is gonna sound crazy, but it can be used as a term of endearment because when you're in the same place with the same group of people and you feel the same way about them as they feel about you,
Yeah.
there's no hierarchy, right?
Yeah.
And it becomes a slur of almost like relatability. Like you can't, even though like
It's
all
that
black
head
people can't,
nod.
huh?
It's the head nod with
It's the head
language.
nod. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we don't look at it as most black people don't look, a lot of, let me say most, a lot of black people don't look at it as a derogatory term between each other
Right.
because you're in the same place, right? I'm no further ahead of you than you are of me. Now, if somebody else comes in from outside of that group and says it, it could appear to be you're looking down on me. You think less of me than who I am, and you have just insulted me.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, very much so. Very much.
I'll give you it's not the same, but it's a funny story. You know David McCarthy, Emerick, yes?
Yes.
He's a good friend of mine. And we were at Recharge several years ago in Seattle, having a couple cocktails at night. And we got into just a kind of a catty conversation. We're at the bar and he goes, "You're just a big dyke." And a woman at the bar got up and got in his face in defense of me. Right. And I had to then back her down and go, no, it's all good. So we may be all good with the language, but other people are going to pick it up too.
Yeah, that's staying on point. Exactly.
She almost kicked his butt. It was pretty funny.
Well, you know, and so, you know, and again, when you use that term, it's not, again, I know it sounds crazy. It's a term of endearment that, again, with people in the same position, they don't look down at the word amongst themselves. It's just that when the word comes from outside of that group, again, like I said, one assumes that you're looking down on them and you think lesser of them. And then that's when it becomes an insult.
Got it. That makes sense.
That's when it becomes an insult.
It's like I have somebody that's on this call with us and we call each other cranky old queen. I mean, if somebody else said that outside of, like you're saying, the group, or it's more of a term of endearment between us. If I heard, and I can be cranky, don't get me wrong, but if somebody else were to say that outside of our demographic, it would bother me. I really, since you've been doing these on Wednesdays, you totally changed my world in terms of how I think about things across the board. The systemic nature of all of this, boy, oh boy, am I guilty? I apologize, but at least I'm aware now.
Well, no, I don't, this is open. You can't, in order to offend me, you got to do some work to offend me. I mean, because we're in an open conversation. This is real. I mean, for me, I love to have real conversations. If we can have a real conversation and we can be genuine in the conversation, it's probably not much of anything you can say to insult me.
I get that.
But Brian is a cranky old queen. Brian is a cranky old queen. And
I knew you were on there.
It's such a perfectly descriptive word for both of you. So Emerick, I'm curious because I know, again, the gentleman that I interviewed last week, Marwan, he's gay and Middle Eastern.
Okay.
And in the country he's from, they kill you for being gay. So within that culture, I can understand, you know, I can't understand, but I understand that happens. I know within the Black community for years, there's been maybe a little bit harsher or less acceptance of gay folks.
Well, you know, and a part of that, I believe, is that there's already an era of oppression in the community, and then you put yourself in a place where you're doubly oppressed. And it's like a double oppression for some people's perspective. And again, you got to remember the community is risk averse. So anything that's outside of what would be considered like a normal human behavior that you don't understand, people shun it to a totally different degree because that just wasn't, I mean, it just wasn't a thing that, let's just say, we saw outwardly in the community. And so you're different. It's really, it's no different than any other community, because even in the white community, do they really accept gay white men? No. They'll accept gay white women because, again, they're seeking the same thing. Oh yeah, can I watch?
Yeah.
You know, it's a different thought process. It just is. And so in the community, it's just that way. Like for me, you know, I've always told people, I said, I accept people for who they are. I had a friend who I grew up with, and, you know, we went to elementary school, and, you know, it was just one of them things like, that boy's different. We knew from like elementary school, that boy's different. We couldn't figure it out when we were playing football, and his whole attitude about everything, that boy's different. And so we grew up, and people used to ask me, say, Emerick, how do you hang out with him? I said, dude, we looking for this, we in the same space. He hang out with girls and I like girls, so he hang out with more girls than y'all hang out with, so I'm gonna hang out with him because I got a bigger pick of the litter than you do.
We just had a conversation about using those perceptions to your advantage.
Right. But no, and that caused me, you know, just understanding, you know, who he was and the person, it really forced me to really understand people at an early age. And people ask me questions. I said, so, and I started asking, I said, so what makes you think he's so different? I said, well, they choose, you know, God, and, you know, Black people are like, can be really super religious to a certain degree.
I figured that was part of it.
So God, that's an abomination of God and God's will, and this. I said, okay, I got you. So let me give you something else. And I do the Kool-Aid additive. You know, Black people love Kool-Aid. That's why I can use the Kool-Aid. Yeah, red Kool-Aid. What flavor is that? Red. Red is not a flavor. Okay. But like Kool-Aid, Black people love Kool-Aid. So I came up with this analogy. I said, just think about it. People are like Kool-Aid, right? In estrogen and testosterone is like sugar, right? So if you are a male in the Kool-Aid factory, if you get too much sugar, then you'll be gay. If a female gets too little sugar, then she'll be gay. And I said, so in this place of biology, you know, the chromosomes, allelic combinations, you know, all of these things happen. Why can't it be natural that it happens this way? Because when you get all this chromosome and allelic combination and all these different things, what happens if you just don't get all of what you're supposed to get, or you get too much of something that you shouldn't have gotten? It's going to come out in your sexuality because there is a certain amount of mix match from your allelic and chromosomal combination, where it's not what they choose. It's just that when the Kool-Aid was getting mixed, either they got too much sugar or too little sugar. Think about it like that. I said, God's making Kool-Aid, and sometimes God just maybe put a little bit too much sugar here and didn't put enough sugar there. And so that's not something that they choose. That's just the way biology works for them in their development inside the womb.
I love that analogy. There's some things that I would tweak, and you can meet people where they're at with that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, with Kool-Aid, like I said, Black folks, Kool-Aid, that's easy. Yeah. And I can really do it with my brothers because they love like this syrup Kool-Aid. Like they like put 3 cups of sugar. Dude, what are you doing? And then I use that analogy with them, and it makes so much sense. And it's like people never think about it that way, you know. That just is.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, we're all trying to figure out the things we don't understand, right?
Right. And it's just nature. It's nature that, it's nature. And like I said, I believe that, you know, some people, that may be the lifestyle that they choose. But most people, that's not the lifestyle they choose, because I don't know many people who would choose to walk out the door every day and be persecuted that way and say, oh, this is great. I want to be persecuted for the rest of my life. Let me just go be gay. I mean, really?
That argument always cracks me up, especially when it comes from men, because I go, okay, could you wake up tomorrow morning and decide you wanted, and I'm not going to say it on here, starts with a C, ends with a K, and they go, oh, no, I couldn't choose that. Well, hello.
So yeah, but it has been, it is an issue. Part of it is religious, and the other part is, you know, again, adverse to, there's an aversion to abnormal things. I could go into all kinds of things where, you know, just growing up, things that if it was not in the norm, we just avoid it.
I never ever thought
quote
about
unquote norm. I quote unquote norm.
Right. Statistical norms, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Where do you think that risk aversion comes from? I never thought about that until you said it today.
Because anything that was outside of the norm, historically, we've been punished for.
Well, you've been punished for everything.
Well, and then if it's outside the norm, you get punished even more. So let me just stay within the confines of what's considered the social norm, and not even add double persecution on to anything else.
So almost a desire to be conforming in a way.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Other questions from the audience or comments?
Are they
So
like,
Mom, you got anything with your kids?
No.
Okay.
Salam, I thought she took a break.
No, I've been here.
There she is.
She laughing at me. That's what she's doing.
No,
she like he telling all the secrets.
Oh, it's awesome. This is amazing. But no. I mean, we can talk about how we were saying when is the right time. I love the fact that you said you don't want them to find out. You want them to say, like, give them heads up. I do appreciate that. At the same time, like my 7-year-old was like, Mommy, this is too much for me. Like, this is negative. I don't want to listen to it. And, you know, I leave them alone, but I don't know.
I get that. That's a tender age.
Again, they're kids. They're kids. And the question becomes, the more inquisitive they become, the more answers that you have to give them. And you really can't force feed it to them. They have to come from their own inquisitive place, and that's how they understand things better. Because it's like anybody else that you force feed. When you force feed, nobody's receptive to being force fed. However, when they start getting that natural curiosity kicks in, you help them satisfy that natural curiosity, and they actually become more inquisitive. So you got to meet them where they are at this point.
Yeah.
And some, when they get to be teenagers, you just got to give them a rough dose, because the world, that's when they get to see the world, and the world is not gonna be nice to them. Not historically, anyway.
I was gonna say, maybe between now and then, since we got what, 7 years? Well,
right.
Who knows? We're in a big time of transformation right now.
And that it's the key is we don't even know where we're going to end up. Really, if somebody said, what do you see in 5 years? Hell, I don't know. That's a crystal ball conversation. Yep. Because if you told me in December 2019 we would be at this place in July of 2020, I would say hell no. So 5 years, we can't answer that question. Yeah. So
it's going to be an interesting ride, I think. I've gotten to the place of just attempting to laugh at every new weird thing that happens.
Well, you know, the weird is the new normal in some cases.
Yep.
Weird is the new normal. And you have to look at it and say, okay, I've seen stranger and I've been in stranger places, but none is strange as 2020.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, it feels like a jumping off point to me in a lot of ways.
well,
In
gotta,
good ways.
well, I mean, it's a jumping off point. Part of it is that we've been given just this long, hard, rough dose of reality, you know, and how much reality can you take? You got to absorb. You have to, at some point, you got to take the opportunity to again jump off and just figure out what you're really doing or where you're going or what this really means to you. And if it keeps hitting you upside the head, sometimes it might be sensory overload and you may not react in the best way.
That does happen.
You know, I made a post this morning. My post was really about, you know, advice. It said, do you want the best advice or do you want the right advice?
What's the distinction there, Emerick?
The best advice is the advice that you get right now. The right advice is the advice that's going to benefit you the most in the future. You get it?
Yeah. Where
You know,
my brain just went to the marshmallow test.
right.
You know, right?
It's a hyperbolic discount. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
It's a conversation about hyperbolic discounting. The best advice is give me the $100 right now.
Yep.
The right advice is give me the $10,000 in a year.
Yep. That's interesting. In this pause that coronavirus has given us, I had not thought about the marshmallow test or that, and that I mean, we're all delayed gratification for everything right now. Maybe the universe, God has shown up and said, we're going to teach you what delayed gratification's like.
Right. And so in that space, we got some tough choices to make right now.
Yep. Yes,
and we're doing all these different things. You know, all these different people are making all these changes. And the real question is, are these changes or all these adjustments for the immediate future, or the long-term future? Which one is the best one and which one is the right one? It feels like the best one right now. However, long-term may not be the best thing. I had a flashback of that. Again, now I'm getting like you because I can't say what I was going to say. Because this would not, anyway. It might distort Brian's perception of me.
So you'll have to tell me offline.
Yeah, I'll tell you offline. And then you can deliver it to them.
I'll soften it. That's a skill set.
There's no softening for this one. And so, yeah, and so that's the thing, you know, is it the best decision or is it the best advice or the right advice? And a lot of the advice that we're getting right now, it may be the best advice for right now. Is it the right advice long term?
Yeah.
And that's a rough little fight that we're gonna have for a while.
Oh, for sure.
That's a rough
and even if we're going with the best advice right now that, you know, we can see based on a normal world would have bad consequences down the road, we still get to be in the solution. I think here's what I mean. In this period of time, for the next 2 years, I think we're going to see so much innovation and creativity come out because it's going to have to.
Okay.
Institutions, businesses, family, nothing, schools, nothing is going to operate the way it did. So we're going to have to innovate. Financial institutions, I think, probably the same thing. Yeah. And my good moments, it's an exciting time.
Well, and the other thing is we got to just make sure that we're engaged at a level where we have a meaningful contribution.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah, a meaningful contribution. And you know, one could say, what is meaningful contribution? Meaningful is relevant. But if in your heart and in your mind, it's positive and it's moving in a direction, and the people who you're intended to deal with are perceiving it to be positive, then I guess that's meaningful.
Yep.
Because you're affecting somebody else in a positive way.
Yeah. In every moment, we get to define who we are.
And as we define who we are, we get to build a relationship that answers another question for somebody else that hopefully means something to us. Because, you know, it comes back to that thing where I've always said, and probably somebody else has said it, I just adopted it. You know, we were put here to enhance the lives of other people.
Yep.
And along the way, we get the benefit.
We get to enhance ourselves or be enhanced by others.
Right. And so, you know, and the question is, what are you doing to just be a better person, to enhance the lives of the people around you? And the universe will reciprocate that back to you in one way or another, which is of a positive nature.
Yep.
So what are you doing?
Yep. All right. Unless we have other questions, I think we should jump into our Wednesdays.
Absolutely.
Well, actually, you're way into your Wednesday. You going on 1 o'clock?
Yeah. No, it's going on 12.
Okay.
Yep, I've been out, exercised, made a few stops. Yeah, I'm well into my day.
Yeah, I am too, but you know, it's because of the early rising.
Okay, some things I just don't do well, and early rising is one of them. Since I got out of the military, it's like, okay. I have no desire to see 5 o'clock in the morning. I didn't leave anything at 5 o'clock in the morning, so I'm not waking up to catch anything at 5 o'clock in the morning. However, I probably should.
It's a beautiful time of day.
I probably should. I believe you.
Growing up in Vegas, you know, I mean, it was not unusual. We still hadn't gone to bed yet. So it's totally different body clock.
That's different though. It's different when you haven't gone to bed yet at 5. It's another thing when you're waking up at 5. There's two different things.
Totally.
So.
All right, sir. Well, thank you.
Yes.
Fantastic week. I look forward to talking to you next week.
Yep. I'm getting ready to call you. I'm going to give you this thing because it's just like on the tip of my tongue, and you can do what you choose with it.
Okay.
All right.
Love you, man.
All right. Love you too.
Bye, everyone.
All right. Hey, you still over there? Or you done because it's 12 o'clock? How much did you get done?
$2.
Huh?